It was just past dawn when Edith Mara found the first one. A small grey mouse, perfectly still, lying in the centre of her welcome mat. Its fur was unmarked. Its eyes were closed, almost peaceful. For a moment she thought it was sleeping. Then she saw the cat. Biscuit sat 3 feet away, ginger and white, one ear notched like a torn coin, watching her with calm amber eyes. He did not blink. He did not look guilty. If anything, he looked proud. Edith was 71 years old, and she had lived alone in this cottage at the edge of Wren's Hollow for 9 quiet years. She had seen many strange mornings, but she had never seen a cat present a corpse like an offering. She knelt down slowly. "Why," she whispered, "would you bring me this?" Biscuit only purred, and that single question would follow her for the rest of the season. Edith buried the mouse beneath the apple tree and told herself it was a one-time thing. It was not. The next morning there was a vole on the doorstep. The morning after that, a sparrow, its small wing folded neatly beneath it. By the end of the week, she had buried 5 little graves under the apple tree, each one delivered by the same calm ginger cat. People in the village had a simple answer. "It's a gift," said the grocer. "Cats love you, so they bring you presents." Edith wanted to believe that, but something about it did not fit. Biscuit never seemed to be giving her anything. He seemed to be teaching her, testing her, waiting for something she could not name. So she made herself a promise, there in her small kitchen with the kettle going cold. She would not look away. She would find out exactly why her cat kept bringing her the dead. To understand Biscuit, Edith had to understand where he came from. He had arrived 4 winters ago, half-starved, hiding under her woodpile during a storm. He was not a kitten then, but a young cat, lean and wary, with that torn ear already healed into a notch. She had left out a saucer of warm milk and a folded towel. For 3 nights he only watched from the shadows. On the 4th night, he came inside. He never fully became a house cat. Every dawn he slipped out through the gap in the garden fence and vanished into the long grass and the hedgerows beyond. Edith never knew where he went. She only knew he always came back, and that lately he came back carrying things. She began to keep a small notebook by the door. Date, animal, condition. She did not yet know it, but she had started doing science. The notebook filled faster than she expected. A field mouse on Monday. A young rat on Wednesday, which made her shudder. A mole, blind and velvet dark, on Friday. Edith noticed patterns she could not explain. The animals were almost never eaten. They were rarely even marked. Biscuit was not hungry, that much was certain. She fed him twice a day, good food, and he ate it all. So he was not killing to survive. He was killing for some other reason, and then carrying the small bodies home to lay them at her feet. One grey morning she watched from the window as he crossed the meadow with a finch in his mouth. He did not eat it in the grass where he caught it. He carried it the whole way home, past the apple tree, up the step, and set it down gently on the mat. Then he sat and waited. For her, that waiting unsettled her most. Biscuit did not simply drop the animals and walk away. He stayed. He watched her face. When she came to the door, he would look at the body, then look at her, then back at the body, as if guiding her attention, as if expecting her to do something with it. The first few times, Edith simply cleaned it away and shooed him off. He would follow her, meowing, agitated, his tail flicking. Only when she finally picked the animal up did he settle. It was almost as though the bringing was a question, and her taking it was the answer he needed. "What do you want from me?" she asked him one evening, holding his small, heavy head in her hands. His eyes were warm and unreadable. Outside, the hedgerows hummed with the things he hunted, and somewhere inside that ginger skull was an instinct older than the cottage, older than the village. older than her. Edith began to ask around. The vet in the next town, Dr. Halloran, laughed gently when she described it. "Oh, that's very normal," he said, "especially with cats that go outdoors. You should feel flattered." But when she pressed him, asking why, he grew thoughtful. "Honestly," he admitted, "people assume it's a gift, but the truth is stranger. We don't give cats enough credit for what's going on in their heads." He told her there were several theories, and that none of them were as simple as love. Edith drove home that evening with more questions than she had arrived with. The road wound past dark fields where 1,000 small lives moved unseen. She thought about Biscuit out there in the night, silent, patient, deadly, and then trotting home with his strange cargo. A predator, a provider, and, somehow, a creature trying to speak across the vast gap between his species and hers. The brought animals began to change her sleep. Edith found herself waking before dawn, listening for the soft thud of the cat door, the muffled sound of something being carried in. One night she rose and crept downstairs in the dark. There, in a slant of moonlight on the kitchen floor, sat Biscuit. Before him lay a mouse, quite dead. He was not eating it. He was nudging it gently with one white paw, then looking toward the stairs, toward her bedroom, as if checking whether she had come to collect it. When he saw her in the doorway, he gave a low, proud chirp. Edith's skin prickled. This was not random. This was deliberate. He had a purpose she could feel but not yet read. She sat down on the cold floor in her nightgown, the cat, the woman, and the small, still body between them, and she made herself look at it honestly for the first time. Here is the question that kept Edith awake. If a cat is well fed, why does it hunt at all? And if it does not eat what it kills, why carry it home? Hunger could not be the answer. Neither, really, could simple cruelty. There had to be something built into Biscuit, something written before he was born, that made all of this feel necessary to him. Edith started reading everything she could find: books on wild cats, articles on house cats, old farmers' diaries from the valley. Slowly, a picture began to form, and it was nothing like the cheerful gift the villagers believed in. The real reasons were deeper and far more touching. They reached back through millions of years, into the cold logic of survival, and forward into something that looked almost like love. To understand the mouse on her doormat, Edith would have to understand the heart of a hunter. The first truth was the hardest one. Biscuit was a predator, and predators are built to hunt whether they are hungry or not. In the wild, a cat never knows when its next meal will come. So evolution did something clever and slightly ruthless. It separated the urge to hunt from the feeling of hunger. A cat hunts because moving prey triggers the instinct, the same way a smell can suddenly drag you back into childhood. A full belly does not switch it off. This is why a cat with a brimming food bowl will still stalk a feather, a string, a beetle, a shadow. Biscuit was not killing because he needed to eat. He was killing because a small creature darted through the grass, and a circuit 1,000,000 years old lit up inside him. He could no more ignore it than Edith could ignore a baby crying. The hunt was not a choice. It was who he was. But hunting only explained the killing. It did not explain the carrying home. Why not eat the prey or leave it in the field? Here Edith found the second truth, and it surprised her. For a wildcat, the place where you eat is dangerous. Out in the open, a cat with a kill can be ambushed or have its meal stolen by something larger. So cats evolved to carry prey back to a safe, familiar place before dealing with it. A den, a burrow, a quiet corner away from threats. To Biscuit, the cottage was that safe place. The doormat, the kitchen floor, the foot of Edith's bed. These were his den, the one spot in all the world where nothing could take what was his. He was not making a delivery. He was doing what his ancestors had done for ages beyond counting, bringing the catch home to the only safe ground he knew. And his safe ground included her. That idea moved Edith more than she expected. His den included her. In a cat's mind, the den is shared only with family, with the small circle of beings it trusts completely. By carrying his kills into her home, Biscuit was telling her something he had no words for. You are mine. This is ours. We are safe here together. The lonely woman in the cottage at the edge of Wren's Hollow had been adopted, fully and without question, into the family of a cat. But there was still a piece missing. Bringing prey to the den explained why the bodies ended up indoors. It did not explain why he laid them so carefully at her feet, then waited, watching her face, almost insisting that she take them. For that, Edith had to learn the strangest and most tender truth of all. It had to do with mothers, and it had to do with how a cat sees the humans it loves. In the wild, a mother cat does far more than feed her kittens. She teaches them how to survive. It begins with milk. Then she brings dead prey to the nest, so the kittens learn what food looks like. Later, she brings injured prey, still moving, so they can practice the chase in safety. Step by step, she turns helpless babies into hunters. It is one of the most patient forms of teaching in all of nature. A mother cat will repeat the lesson again and again, bringing prey home, dropping it, watching to see if the little ones understand. And here was the truth that made Edith press a hand to her mouth. When a cat brings prey to a human and lays it down and waits, it is very often doing exactly this. It is teaching. In Biscuit's eyes, Edith was not a god, or a servant, or even quite an equal. She was something far more vulnerable. To Biscuit, Edith was a kitten. A large, clumsy, deeply incompetent kitten. Think about it from his side. He had watched this creature for 4 years. She never caught a single mouse. She never climbed the apple tree. She made far too much noise when she moved through the grass. She came home every evening with food she had somehow gotten, but he had never once seen her hunt for it. By every measure a cat understands, Edith was a hopeless predator who would surely starve without help. And so Biscuit did the only kind, sensible thing a decent cat could do. He started bringing her food. He brought her mice the way a mother brings mice to a kitten who has not yet learned. He laid them at her feet and waited, hoping that this time, finally, she might understand what to do. Every dead mouse on the doormat was not a trophy. It was a lesson, taught with endless, exasperated patience. When Edith finally understood this, she sat down at her kitchen table and wept. For years she had thought of herself as the one who rescued Biscuit. The half-starved cat under the woodpile, the saucer of milk, the folded towel. She had believed she was his keeper, his provider, the strong one in their little household. And all this time, in his own mind, he had been trying to take care of her. He had watched her grow older. He had seen her move more slowly, eat alone, sit by the window in the long evenings. And in the only language he had, the language of the hunt, he had been saying the same thing to her every single morning. I will not let you go hungry. I will feed you, even if I must teach you 1,000 times. You are slow and strange and you cannot hunt. But you are mine, and I will provide. There was another layer still, and it belonged especially to cats like Biscuit. Many of the cats most famous for bringing home prey are females, and often spayed females, whose mothering instinct has nowhere else to go. With no kittens of their own to teach, that ancient drive does not simply vanish. It pours instead into whoever shares their den. But males do it too. Biscuit was proof of that. The urge to provide, to teach, to care for the helpless members of the family runs deep in the whole species. What looked like a grisly habit was really a misdirected act of devotion. A parent's love with no kitten to receive it, finding the nearest creature in need. And in that cottage, the nearest creature in need was a lonely old woman who had once left out a saucer of milk in a storm, and in doing so had become, without knowing it, somebody's child. Edith changed after that. She stopped scolding Biscuit when he brought his small, dark offerings. Instead, she would kneel and look at the animal, and then look at him, and say gently, "Thank you. Thank you for taking care of me." And something in the cat seemed to ease. The frantic meowing stopped. He no longer followed her around the kitchen, agitated, as if his lesson had failed. Now, when he brought prey, she received it with solemn care, and he would settle on the windowsill content, a teacher whose pupil had finally, after years, begun to learn. She still buried the animals under the apple tree, but now each small grave felt different. Not like evidence of something disturbing, more like the receipts of a long, faithful love that she had very nearly thrown away because she had not understood its strange and bloody shape. That autumn, Biscuit began to slow. He was older now than anyone could say, for no one had known his age when he arrived. His hunts grew shorter. Some mornings he came home with nothing and seemed almost embarrassed, settling into his towel without meeting her eyes. Edith worried in the quiet way of someone who has learned how much a small animal can hold of your heart. Dr. Halloran found nothing truly wrong, only age, only the long, slow turning of a life. "He's an old soldier," the vet said kindly. "He's earned his rest." But Biscuit did not seem to want rest. Even as his body failed him, he kept trying to slip out at dawn, kept trying to cross the meadow, kept trying to bring something home. The drive to provide for his strange, slow kitten burned in him long after his legs had begun to fail. One cold morning near the end of the year, Edith woke to find Biscuit waiting by the door. He had not been outside. He was too weak now for the meadow, and they both seemed to know it. But there, on the mat, lay a single dry oak leaf, curled and brown, carried in from the garden step. He had brought her a leaf. He sat beside it, thin and trembling, and looked up at her with those calm, amber eyes, and gave a low, proud chirp, the very same sound he had made on that first strange morning so long ago. He had nothing left to hunt, so he had brought her the only thing he could still carry. The meaning underneath had never changed at all. "I am still taking care of you. I am still trying." Edith picked up the leaf as if it were the rarest treasure on earth. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, my friend." Biscuit died that winter, asleep on the folded towel by the warm stove, with Edith's hand resting on his side. He went quietly, the way old hunters do, slipping out at last through some gap in the fence too narrow for her to follow. She buried him beneath the apple tree, in the soft ground above all those small graves he had dug into her memory. It seemed right that he should lie there, surrounded by every gift he had ever tried to give her. For a long time the cottage was very silent. No soft thud of the cat door at dawn. No proud chirp. No small dark body waiting on the mat. Edith had not known a house could feel so empty, or that she could miss something as strange as a dead mouse on her doorstep. But she missed it. She missed all of it. She missed being somebody's clumsy, beloved kitten. In the spring, the apple tree above Biscuit's grave bloomed heavier than it ever had, as if everything he had carried home had soaked up through the roots and burst into white flowers. Edith would sit beneath it in the evenings and remember. She understood now what those mornings had truly been. Not a parade of little corpses, not a gruesome habit. A message, repeated with aching patience across 4 faithful years. You are not alone. I see that you are slow and old and that you live by yourself, and I have decided that I will not let you face the world unfed. It was, she thought, one of the purest expressions of love she had ever been given. And it had come wrapped in the body of a mouse, from a creature most people would call simple, on a doormat at the edge of a small, forgotten village. So the next time a cat lays a dead animal at your feet, Try to remember Biscuit and the woman in the cottage. That small, still body on your doorstep is not a threat, and it is not really a gift in the way we usually mean the word. It is a sentence in a language older than ours. Depending on the cat, it may mean, "This is our safe den, and I am bringing the catch home." It may mean, "I am sharing my food with my family." Or, most movingly of all, it may mean, "I think you cannot hunt, you poor helpless thing. So I will feed you and teach you, again and again, for as long as I live." It is instinct, yes. It is biology millions of years deep. But love, when you look closely enough, has always been made of exactly that. We like to imagine that love is something separate from biology, a bright spark floating above the animal world. But maybe the truth is gentler than that. Maybe the same ancient circuits that make a mother cat carry prey to her kittens are the very roots from which our own devotion grows. The urge to feed the helpless, to protect the den, to teach what we know to the ones we love, patiently, even when they do not understand. When Biscuit laid a mouse at Edith's feet, he was reaching across an enormous distance between two species, using the only words evolution had ever given him. And somehow, against all odds, the message got through. A lonely woman learned that she was loved by an animal that could not speak a single word, in a tongue made entirely of devotion, and small, brave, terrible hunting. Edith lived many more years in the cottage at the edge of Wren's Hollow. In time, another cat found her, a young stray at the garden gate, thin and watchful in the rain. She knew exactly what to do. She set out a saucer of warm milk and a folded towel, and she waited. And when, weeks later, that new cat left its first small offering on her doormat, she did not flinch, and she did not grieve. She knelt down in the morning light, and she looked at the animal, and then up at the cat, and she smiled through the ache in her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. "I understand now. I understand what you are telling me." And somewhere under the apple tree, in ground gone gold with fallen blossom, an old hunter could finally rest. His clumsy kitten had learned the lesson at last. We spend our whole lives surrounded by creatures trying to tell us they love us, in languages we were never taught to read. A dog at the door, a cat on the doormat, a small dark gift we mistake for something grim. If this story moved you, take a moment now to thank the animal beside you, whatever strange offerings it brings. Reach down and rest your hand on its warm and faithful head. And if you would like more true, tender stories like Biscuit's, the kind that find the love hidden inside the wild and ordinary world, consider subscribing and staying a while. There is so much devotion all around us, waiting quietly to be understood. We only have to learn how to see it. Thank you for listening, and whatever creature shares your den tonight, hold it a little closer. It has been trying all this time to take care of you.